right, now, listen up.
3, 2, 1.
It's showtime.
That's great.
This is ridiculous.
99.3 The Truth.
You can't handle the truth. Right now.
Ooh.
That's the stupidest thing I ever heard.
Let's do it.
Hit it.
It's time for Mac's World.
And here we go.
Everybody, let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Call Mac 244-0077 or text 809-0993.
It's showtime, everybody. Showtime.
Exclusively on 99.3 The Truth.
Yes. Second hour of what formerly was called Mac's World Live on the Truth Network. And we've transformed it over to Tom's World Live. And we've got Frank the Verse, Bob Cat in the Hat. We've got Jebediah over there doing a heck of a job, Jebediah, on producing.
Thank you, Tom Coates.
Absolutely.
Same to you.
And my name is Tom Coates, and that's why it's become Tom's World Live. Guys, we had a comment, and I do not want to be accused of any more than Obama wants Kaepernick to be accused of stifling free speech. So I want to get out the comment that came across the text line. Bob, you want to read that?
Yeah, it's from the Service Legends Truth text line. And it says, I think Tom needs his own show. I really enjoyed the show today. Now, it has a phone number. I'm wondering, can you repeat your number, Tom? So I just curious.
Well, I can take that kind of criticism, Bob. You just, anything comes through like that, you just pass it on through. We do not want to stifle free speech on this show. And now, our guest for this second hour is the esteemed Will Rodgers, a brother of mine, a club member I met many, many years ago. Will and I belong to the same cigar club. I see Will there on occasion, and we have more than one occasion played Obamanos together, haven't we?
That is correct. We've had a number of sessions, but you know it's always fun until Jerry Grady shows up.
Oh, you mention his name 3 times, and he'll show up here in the studio.
I've only mentioned it one time, so we'll leave it at that.
And Obamanos, for those of you out in the audience that may be uninitiated, is a variation of the dominoes game. And I named it such back in 2008 when we had the unfortunate opportunity to receive Barack Hussein Obama as our incoming president. At our club, we have a table of dominoes that seats 4 people. If more than 4 players want to play, the way we play it is the winner of the last hand of dominoes gets up from the table and moves to the back of the line. Treated similarly to what Obama does in our quasi-capitalist system. If you're successful, you're not a contributor, you're going to be punished. And so that's why it's called Obamanos. For those, now you know why it's called Obamanos. Now, going to you, Will, your position, and you've been the chair of the Polk County Republicans for how many years now?
Well, this fall will make my 4th year as chairman. I will have also served as co-chairman for 2 years back in 2009, 2010, and then also served as our executive director in 2003 and 2004. And so I've been on the Central Committee as well, so I've been very active for 20-plus years now in grassroots politics here in Polk County.
Well, when you started, you had a full head of hair.
I did. It was crazy.
Well, so you have been very active, and you've seen a lot of comings and goings. You go back a ways. We want to get from you your position now as it pertains to where we coming into now the home stretch of a very long political campaign on both sides. We had open seats on both sides, no incumbent, no vice president stepping up. This is a very similar year in that regard to what we had back in 2008. We had nobody stepping up that had any, again, the vice president at that point, Dick Cheney, was not running. At this point, we kept expecting to see Joe Biden step in, but he's not going to, apparently, unless Hillary keels over, maybe. We could talk about that. She has an extended coughing fit that may take her clear down to her knees. But so how do you size this season up? Again, interesting, very contentious on both sides. Bernie breathed down Hillary's neck until they finally fixed the deck enough so that he went bye-bye. So what happened? What happens now?
Well, let's kind of just do a real quick recap. Last time I was here on the show was right before, I can't even remember which primary it was. Mac wanted to know what was going to happen between then and the convention. I had made the prediction that at least someone was going to stick around and continue to fight until the convention. It was immediately after that, of course, that both Ted Cruz and John Kasich dropped out of the process, and thus making me look bad. But I would say, to exact some level of credibility, I was correct in the sense that there was still going to be some level of fight on at the convention. There was an effort there, and you've probably heard from some of your other speakers since the convention that had talked about this. But there was some a movement within the convention to try to change the rules process so that it could leave it open for an open ballot.
That'd be free the delegates.
Free the delegates. That's correct. So. Now, since that didn't go anywhere, honestly, Donald Trump's become our party nominee, and we've now seen a lot of support, I think, gravitating to Donald Trump. Now, I believe in the latest poll, he's up to 90% of all Republicans that have said they will support Donald Trump as our party nominee, which is it's an essential threshold to have at least 90%. We'd love to have 100. We'll probably not get there, but I still think there's even some time left that people can gravitate into supporting Donald Trump.
I hadn't seen that. What? Just real quick, Frank. Do they have a counterpart to the Democrats? What percentage of the Democrats?
92%.
So okay, they're both essentially behind their candidate.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Frank.
Going back our last couple of elections, whether it was McCain, Romney, do you know the numbers on the percent of Republicans?
It's been plus 90%.
So it's been over.
Yes, you have to. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
I saw a poll just, I think it was just last night, guys, on the independents. Okay, so 90% of both parties are essentially behind their candidates. How do the independents drop out? An overwhelming percentage at this point in this poll showed they were supporting Donald Trump.
42-29.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big number.
That was the poll that was released yesterday that they talked about, or may have been on Sunday they released it, but 42% of independents currently say that they're leaning towards Donald Trump. 29% said they're going to be leaning towards Hillary Clinton at this time. Now, here's the thing that I would just continue to say. 3 weeks ago, every national pundit, Chuck Todd and all the other talking heads on TV were basically declaring the Trump candidacy over. I mean, there's no way he was going to overcome what was, in store for him. And now that narrative has begun to change again, and now here's at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of baseball left to be played between now and November 8th. Now, I will tell you that if whatever the numbers are looking like maybe the week before, those are going to be very telling, especially on a national level. Here in Iowa, myself and other people, we really think that Donald Trump has a real shot at winning Iowa. Now, does that mean he wins the presidency? He still has to win a lot of other swing states and in a lot of other states that are going to be competitive this year that normally wouldn't be. Please.
What are you hearing about the debates? Because I've heard that at least one debate is going to be like a forum in which the candidates speak separately of one another. Is there any debates?
Yes.
Where they're going to be one-on-one?
Yep. This is what I understand. Actually, I think it's as early as in the next week. There is going to be an MSNBC forum where it's co-appearances by Trump and Hillary. They're not going to be debating one another, no going back and forth. But there are going to be events where there's going to be traditional debates like we've had in the past. And I think, again, that plays into there's a lot of baseball left to be played. I think we saw that with Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. Mitt Romney came out in the first debate and absolutely saw tremendous movement in his polls. Then subsequently later on, Mitt Romney lessened his message in the second debate. By the third debate, he was all but done, and Barack Obama had come storming back with his message. In addition to that, there's one other thing that happened in the 2012 election cycle that could very well play out in 2016, and that is the level of organization in terms of targeting voters, in terms of get out the vote, that Barack Obama did very, very effective. And what I say by that is, one of the, I'll give a tradition, you always want to get out your base, but Barack Obama knew that he was going to be strong with his own base. What he went after was people that traditionally wouldn't vote for him, that he got to go vote for him on election day. So an example of that was women, Republican, 18 years old to 35 years old. And they had been bleeding out this message for a couple of years about the war on women and war on their reproductive rights. Mm-hmm. And they would go back at him again and again. They found out who they were, then they went back to him again and again and convinced him that Barack Obama was, a vote for him was in their best interest. And then they got him to vote early, or they got him to the polls on election day. And it changed the voter turnout model. That's why all the polls were wrong.
Do you see that happening with Donald Trump and his outreach? Initially in front of white audiences, and then they criticized him, said, well, he doesn't have the guts to do that in front of a black audience. And then just yesterday or Sunday he goes to the Detroit church in front of a mostly black audience at a black church and makes a very strong appeal. Do you see that kind of thing happening with the Trump campaign?
I would tell you that Donald Trump's outreach to African Americans or Latinos actually has less to do with the fact that he's trying to earn their votes, as he's trying to solidify or assist his vote effort with white suburban soccer moms.
Interesting.
Now, the reason why that is because they want to see that he's compassionate and has empathy, and that's going to be important. If there's that one demographic in there, is very difficult for him right now.
All right, I appreciate it. That's a good thought, and we're going to take a break now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to come back with our guest, Will Rodgers, as soon as we get done past the obligatory commercials. They're sure a nuisance, aren't they, Frank?
Yeah.
This is Tom Coates, Max World Live, going to be returned in 3 minutes.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens, rock on! This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Jeb, you need to get some Western music in there. Something, maybe a little Johnny Cash or something for the bumper music.
All right, I'll work on it.
That's what I did when I sub-hosted for Mac back in the 98.3 days. We had Johnny Cash, a little Western music in there. This is Tom Coates coming to you from 99.3 KTIA's Truth Network. Normally referred to as Mac's World Live. Now we've transformed over to Tom's World Live. And I've got Frank the Verse, Bob Masseret, Cat in the Hat. We've got Jeb producing, and we've got a good friend of ours, Will Rodgers, coming in as our guest this hour. And if you want to call in, ladies and gentlemen, please call the number 244-0077. We'd be happy to take a call. If you just want to text us a comment, like we had in the last one, where we're talking about what a fantastic job your substitute host was doing, we'd be happy to take those too. 515-809-0993. That's a Service Legends Truth text line. So, back to the matter of hand. Will, you're giving us some expert commentary. I thought your insight, before we had to cut you short before going into the break, about Donald Trump, I want to pursue that just a little bit more. The average uninformed individual like myself would assume that when Trump makes these comments, he's reaching out to the Latinos or the black voters and trying to bring them in and expand the tent. You're saying not so fast, ignoramus. There's a little different thing going on here. Tell us about that.
Well, I'm not going to I don't want to discredit the fact that Donald Trump is truly wanting to reach out to people that haven't been traditionally Republicans, that haven't necessarily been felt included in our party before. I think that's certainly part of what he wants to do. But I don't think you're going to see large-scale numbers of Latinos or African Americans that are going to become voters in this election cycle for Trump or Republican candidates. But like I said earlier, one of the demographics Donald Trump has had some difficulty with over the last several months has been white suburban soccer moms. These are women that probably would have traditionally voted Republican or at least leaned conservative or a little more conservative in their political ideology. And so Donald Trump is actually making an appeal to them indirectly by reaching out to people, minority voters, and basically saying that I am compassionate. I do have empathy for people. I can talk about issues that aren't just traditionally Republican, framed issues. And I think Donald Trump's message there will, again, you'll see that demographic with white suburban soccer moms continue to improve. Because he was underwater at one point with women, and he needs to narrow that gap just as much as anything else.
Go ahead, Frank.
Do you think Kelly Conway has helped motivate that a little bit?
Yes. That's a one-word answer.
Well, I've got a couple of points here. A question and a couple of points. One, a lot of Obama's success, I think, was the millennials, the young turnout that he had. I don't think Hillary's going to get that kind of turnout from the millennials that Obama did. And I think a couple of people that we're underestimating in the Trump camp would be first-time voters and people who haven't participated in the last number of elections because they've just become discouraged. But Pat Caddell, the pollster, the Democratic pollster, says that Hillary is absolutely hemorrhaging. And he uses that word hemorrhaging, support amongst blue-collar working class.
Yes.
So, I assume a lot of those will go to Trump. But what's your thoughts on those couple of three?
No, well, first of all, let me start with the blue-collar working class. I mean, we clearly know that's what Donald Trump's message has been the most effective on in terms of tearing away votes from the traditional Democrat Party. his message has been one of talking about, keeping jobs here in America, improving the job opportunities for people, working class families, and it's worked. And I mean, because why? To a large extent, no Republican has really talked about it in this way since perhaps Ronald Reagan did. And number two, even within the Democrat Party, you could see that Bernie Sanders outperformed Hillary Clinton, probably because, again, even if she talks about it, she doesn't come across as believable. And I think people are looking to Donald Trump and saying, here's somebody has the opportunity to maybe actually get something done on this to help working class families.
Well, I think his signature issue all along has been the trade deals that we've been making, that we've been getting our clock cleaned by China, by Mexico, by Japan, by whoever we enter these trade deals with. And I think that's resonating with Democrats.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Working class people that, are members of a professional trade union, maybe not a public worker, maybe they're not members of ASME, but maybe they're members of AFL-CIO. Those people, I was out in Davenport a couple weeks ago, played golf with 3 guys that worked at John Deere, and all members of the union, all Democrats, and they're all voting for Trump.
Wow.
And the coal miners in the different states, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. I mean, I don't think you can underestimate potentially if those people rise up.
You'd have to look hard to find a Hillary supporter in the coal miners.
And you look at states like Michigan, which probably wouldn't have been in play this election cycle, start becoming possible states where Trump can win because of the auto workers and how they've been just beaten for the last 40 years by our government.
Well, did you see that Obama wants to increase the CAFE standards? Did you see that? He wants to do even more on the CAFE standards, which would raise the price of the automobiles another couple $1,000s a unit. That came out just the other day, and that's going to only cost more jobs in the area that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that I would say is, and this is about almost every election, the election today is going to be about the future. It's not going to be about the past. Now, you're correct in that the future is if we have any continuation of President Obama's policies, it's going to be bad for the country. And that's also what Trump's message is about as well, is how bad the policies have been for this president, and they're going to just see another third term of Obama under Hillary Clinton.
Well, Tom and I talked about this a couple of months, this Brexit vote.
Yes.
Do you see that happening here in the United States, where the working class is just fed up and is going to stand up and push back for the first time in a long time and say enough is enough?
I mean, again, that was a very close election, and I think that this election has the potential to be very close as well. I also say it could be a blowout election under the right circumstances. But if a lot doesn't change between now and Election Day, it could be very close. I don't want to make predictions on the Electoral College map. I mean, I can certainly say that, there's going to be 20 states that are going to go one way, 20 states that are going to go the other way, and the other 10 that are going to be in play.
Well, you would have to say on the Brexit vote, we talked about it, there was a number of things, mainly dissatisfaction with being forced to take the Muslim immigrants. But it also... Maybe their polls were done to discourage the people that were pushing for the Brexit. Even the Brexit leader came out and made a concession when the polls closed because he assumed the polls were right by then, and they weren't. Either it was a con job, like Rodgers has tried to do with Donald Trump, or they weren't polling the right people. And that was my point to our guest last week. We had Joel Kirshnitis on, and he's a never-Trumper. And one of my points was because he was claiming that he was buried in the polls and couldn't see up, and he was going to be dead meat out on the road. And I said, no, the polls are turning. But I also said the other thing that you're not counting on, that the polls are not counting many of the people that will come out that were not in, as Frank pointed out, in earlier elections. They stayed home. They were discouraged. Right. I think people will be invigorated by what is viewed as an outsider. Now, they say that Trump is not, Kirshnitis, he's not an outsider. He's giving money to... But he played both sides, but he is still not an insider any more than point at somebody else that has not been part of. He's never been elected to anything, so he is not a Washington insider like that.
Well, let's just talk about this for polling for an example. I don't think that polls, everybody wants to read into the tea leaves on polls. They're a moment in time. It's just like a picture. It's only going to be good for that moment, right? And then, a month from now, things can change. 2 months from now, things can change again. And the reason why I make that is that the people that do polling, the majority of them, I want to say, the credible ones, don't have per se a political agenda that they're trying to achieve with their polling. What they're trying to do is gauge where they're at. And so let me just add this, okay? This idea that there's maybe people that they're not talking to, there are pollsters out there that are trying to figure that into the process. They want to get to as close of a number as they possibly can because that helps the candidates. And there's all the horse race journalism. I'm not talking about the polls that go on all the time daily that they just love talking about on the news shows. I'm talking about the polls that are done internally by the campaigns. They're actually out there trying to figure out where they're at and is their messaging working. And they're trying to figure in if there are people that are going to show up to Election Day to vote that they haven't had an opportunity to contact.
Now, Will, as an insider, have you, normally those polls don't get published. Frank and I don't see those. Do you see some of those insider polls?
I hear those polls. Sometimes they're given to me confidentially. Sometimes those poll numbers are given via word of mouth from the campaigns to myself. I would tell you that Iowa is going to be very competitive for Donald Trump. I would also say that Republicans in general here in the state of Iowa are going to have more of a better year. Currently, right now, if we looked at today, are going to have a better year than we may have expected in a presidential election cycle.
Well, that's one of the points I was going to hit on or ask. But going back to Pat Goodell, he said a couple of months ago on Harris Faulkner's show with Doug Schoen that there was an upper Midwestern industrial state, not Ohio, that he was polling in, and said that all his experience and all his numbers said that this state is very likely to turn Trump. And he said it's going to send shockwaves through both parties. So based on that promotion let me ask you just if you have any general idea about maybe these couple, 3 or 4 states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, potentially Wisconsin. Have you heard or seen anything that would suggest any of those states maybe?
I haven't seen anything specifically on those states individually that are internal. I would say that I'm gonna just give you kind of a preface on this. So one of the things, and I'm not trying to pigeonhole Iowa as a state, but we are a very homogeneous state. We're very white in terms of our demographics. We also have, I think, the college graduation rate is less than 30%. So 3/4 of the people in the state of Iowa probably. Not 3, but 2/3 of the people in the state of Iowa have never graduated or maybe even stepped foot in a college classroom. So they're considered going to be typically working class people, or they might be farmers, they might be somebody else. Well, anyways, my point with that is Trump's message appeals very, very well to them. Outside of the state of Iowa, when you get into other states that are much more diverse, you start seeing Trump's message not be as strong and as effective. And that's why states, now I'm going to, with the exception of Utah, there are states like Pennsylvania or Ohio that are more diverse that Trump isn't doing quite as well in. Wisconsin, Trump is actually doing well in comparatively, and Michigan. I mean, if you look back at 2004, Bush won Iowa by 10,000 votes, but he lost Wisconsin.
We want to talk more about this when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tom Coates coming to you from Mac's World Live, transformed to Tom's World Live today with Frank and Bob and our guest Will.
And we got some Johnny going on.
Hey, and Jeb. Give a salute to Jeb, getting me a little Johnny Cash. Thank you, Jeb.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer. I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs,
And I'm the service manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to the penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I find it very, very easy to be true. I find myself alone when each day's through. Yes, I'll admit that I'm a fool for you, because you're mine. I walk the line.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we walk the line in here. Thank you, Jeb. I appreciate that. I requested a little Johnny Cash music, and he came up with a good one for some bumper in there. So, ladies and gentlemen, Max World Live being brought to you by Tom Coates, transforming it into Tom's World Live for a day. Frank the Verse, Bob the Cat in the Hat, Jebediah, as I mentioned, and our guest today is Will Rodgers. Will is the, I want to say, chairman for the Polk County Republicans.
That's correct.
And he is an expert on a number of subjects of interest to me, anyway. Always a pleasure, and a brother from the Cigar Club. We were talking about off the air. You want to get into a couple of subjects that we touched on the Kaepernick issue in the first hour, but I want to come back because you've got some additional thoughts on that.
You know, I didn't get a chance to listen to what the conversation was in the first hour. I was going through a meeting at work, but I want to say this. I know that this has been a subject that obviously has gained a lot of attention, which is part of what Colin Kaepernick intended it to do. And so he's getting what he wanted out of it, I think. I would say this. I mean, there's a lot of people that are critical of him, and I consider myself to be a patriotic person. I served in the military, but I also don't go around caped around in the U.S. flag and waving it in everybody's face all the time. And I mean, and here's the thing that I think that I would say one of the reasons why I stand at the national anthem is not necessarily because I agree with everything that our country does or represents. It's that I do it as a sign of respect for other people. And it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But as a country, we can be united on the fact that we're Americans and that this is a greatest country to live in. It could be greater. There are things we can improve. But as a matter of respect, that's something I do. It's sort of like I'm Jewish. When I go to the prayer breakfast and there's a prayer given, even if it's not necessarily, something that specifically that I believe in, I nod my head and recite a prayer as a matter of respect for other people. And I understand that it means something to other people as well. And so I just think one of the things I can understand Colin Kaepernick trying to have a message, a voice by doing this. At the same time, I could, if there was something like I thought to myself, what is the one thing or what are some things that I could not stand for the national anthem? If I were to say that was an important message, would it be the 70+ million lives that have been ended through abortion in this country? Would it be, the fact that we have millions of children that are going hungry in this country, millions of children that go hungry in this country. In our own city, we have children that the school has to feed them 3 meals a day or send them home with food because their parents won't feed them at home. I mean, is that something that I would sit or kneel for? And I started thinking, I was like, yeah, there are some things that I would really feel passionately enough about that I would say it's time to send some kind of message to people in this way. It might be upsetting to people, but I know at the same time, perhaps there's something to be. Perhaps this is the time that somebody, instead of standing up, kneels down.
Well, what I said in the first hour, and Obama came out and endorsed what Kaepernick was doing.
Yes.
And of course, it goes to his narrative that the police are inherently racist, and we need to have a national discussion about this. If we hadn't been having a national discussion for the last 7+ years under his administration, every time he gets an inkling of an opportunity to go in there and beat up on the race relations, he does it. But I said that beyond his freedom of speech, he's an employee. Yeah, I said 12. I was corrected by Jeb that it's $19 million a year now to set the bench for the San Francisco 49ers. He walks out in a uniform, and he is an employee of the San Francisco 49ers. Any employer with any sense of reason would say, I don't want to insult a whole big portion of my fan base by letting this knucklehead sit down on the bench while they're playing the national anthem. You give him oh yeah, you've got freedom of speech, but this isn't your time. You're an employee of mine, and you're supposed to do as you're directed, and now you're defying what I've said that you're supposed to do, because they would have told all those people to go out and stand and show some respect to the national anthem, and he's saying, I'm not going to do it. He should be fired. Now, that was part of my commentary in the first hour. Do you disagree with any of that?
I completely understand your position on that. I mean, and again, there is that line between employer and your freedom of speech, and it exists almost in every situation. I think, obviously, this is a situation that may go beyond that.
Well, it does. But if you went in and did something totally disrespectful to your clientele while you were an employee, would you not expect to be reprimanded in some fashion?
Absolutely.
Well, that was my point.
And here's why I would just say one thing. Maybe, and I'll just say, this is to be the person that looks at the situation and goes, well, maybe Colin Kaepernick really doesn't care about this, which I don't think is true. But I think, hey, maybe he just realized he can go sell a bunch of his jerseys because he's now got the number one selling jersey in the NFL.
Or?
Well, I speculated that he's been demoted to second string. He may not even make the team. He may be cut. He may be building in an excuse to file some lawsuit that he's been fired because of his racial.
Or he may be just looking for a career beyond. He may be looking for a career beyond football.
That might be hard, Frank, given that the NFL, if you reflect society, we as white guys ought to be complaining because more than 13% of their ranks are taken up with minorities. So we ought to be actually being out and picketing for some of us to get in there, right,
for
Frank?
Affirmative action, then,
yeah, that's
right, Tom?
exactly right. Go ahead,
let me ask you, if you mentioned being of Jewish nature, a descent. We had a Orthodox butcher in here not too long ago, meat market runner, and he was saying if there's one thing that Obama has done, it's kind of united the Jewish vote against him. Where do you think the Jewish vote will go this time in this election? Do you think they'll stay in step with Hillary, or do you think some of them might consider Trump?
Well, I think that certainly some of them will consider Trump. The ones that are liberal Democrats, they're not going to switch over and vote for, Donald Trump. They may less enthusiastically support Hillary Clinton. But at the same time, I belong to the Republican Jewish Coalition. We've seen our ranks swell in the last 4 to 8 years now. And 2 years ago, I was at the National Convention. It was twice the size it had been the year before. And we said our best recruiter has been Barack Obama.
Well, quickly.
And his antipathy for the nation of Israel.
Yes, and because of the way that they've seen him treat Israel.
Quickly, there's a Fox commentator that comes on periodically, Julie Roginski. And Bob was looking her up and said she's her parents. She was born in Russia, Jewish descent. But basically, she's saying that coming out and saying that Iran is playing us like puppets on this Iran nuke deal, and and that strikes right at any concern that a Jewish person would have in the world is the stability of Israel as a nation.
I don't think it just has to be Jewish. I think anybody that believes. That's a Christian, or anybody that believes in what God has committed, and that's those who bless Israel shall be blessed. And this is a situation where the government, and our government, has clearly switched sides.
Good point. And when we return, ladies and gentlemen, Will has a quiz that he's going to give you at home to decide what kind of an animal you are. This is Tom Coates on Max World Live, coming back in just a few.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for the opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat Smith for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I fell into a ring of fire. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire.
Yes, sir, and thank you, Jeb, for that. Little Johnny Cash, one of my favorite artists. I appreciate that. The Ring of Fire is an appropriate one for coming to you today on this Christian network. A little warning there for some of you of little faith. But anyway, this is Tom Coates broadcasting from Mac's World Live. We've transformed it to Tom's World. I've got Frank the Verse, Bob Masserat, and Jeb has been kind enough to accommodate me with my favorite bumper music. So we've also got the guest today of Will Rodgers. Will's been the chairman for a number of years, the Polk County Republican Party. And Will has a little quiz for us. We want to get right to that, Will, since I teased him coming out of the break on that.
All right, Tom. So this is something that I've given some thought to, and I wanted to make sure that we could give our listeners here today some useful tools moving forward in this election cycle. So this is something that I've called the Turing test for liberals, mindless robots versus free-thinking human beings. So, at this point in the 2016 election cycle, I can imagine that some of the listeners, you've had an encounter with a family member that's a liberal or a friend or a neighbor or a coworker.
We all have those in our lives.
Yep. And as they walked up to you, you momentarily thought about the last time you spoke with the person and about how poorly it went. You think the kind of poorly that, you had a root canal last year like I did, and how you now brush your teeth and flush your teeth twice a day just so you'll never have to have another root canal. So you start to come up, you start thinking, should I fake an important work call right now? Or maybe I've got a bad case of diarrhea and I got to get out of the conversation. So immediately this person comes up and starts engaging you in a conversation about politics. And there's no chit chat, no pleasantries or how's the weather, no go play in traffic. Just straight into why they don't like Donald Trump. And then they mindlessly prattle away about the 538 things they can't stand about Trump and the Republican Party. And, your mind starts to wander a little bit. You start to contemplate about, if I punch this person in the face, how much trouble would I get in? Or, if I'd had a drink earlier, would this be a little bit better, a more tolerable situation? And you think, gosh, if they let me just speak a few minutes, maybe it would be a little back and forth. It'd be more enjoyable. Well, anyways, you realize the person that's standing in front of you could possibly not be a free-thinking human being at all. Instead, you start thinking that this person might be a part of an army of mindless robots that have been here to sent here to destroy the human race, or at least bore you to death. Okay?
Okay.
By this same repetitious bleeding of the same talking points about Trump or Republicans or Bush or Cheney.
War
or
on women.
Conservatives, war on women, Rumsfeld.
Global warming. We can go on.
Right? Or the Spanish Inquisition. And by the way, if you need some reference on this, listeners, go onto the Google machine, type in Mel Brooks, History of the World, Part 1, Spanish Inquisition. You'll enjoy that. So, how does the Turing test, which is designated to determine the ability of an exhibit to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human, fit into all of my ranting here? It's simple. I have formulated the following questions answers to help us understand if a person is a free-thinking human being or a mindless liberal robot. Okay? So without further ado, we're going to apply this test to Tom here with the following question and multiple answers. So, Tom, we're going to jump right in. Question 1. When it comes to spending someone else's money, when do you know you've spent enough? A, until they've paid their fair share. B, their wealth came from exploiting the poor. C, they should be happy to pay a lot in taxes because that means they've made a lot of money. Or D, all taxes are theft.
I'd have to say D on that.
Okay, that's the human response, Tom. Very good job. Good job. So
you got one for Frank? We don't leave him out.
Right, Frank, this is for you. Okay, Frank? Okay. So number 2, if science were able to develop a way for you to choose the following, would you pick your child to be heterosexual or homosexual? A, it doesn't matter. I would love the child all the same. B, science can't do that, so it's illogical to even ask the question. C, my cousin Steve is gay and one of the most popular and successful people I know. Or D, straight.
I would say B.
B is your answer? Okay, all right, we're going to hold on to that one.
Circle that one.
We're circle that
We're
one.
not sure, Frank's.
Frank, we're going to have to...
Well, let me rehear the B, the choice.
Okay, B, science can't do that, so it's illogical even to ask that question. Or D was straight.
Well, obviously I want straight, but science can't answer the question.
Well, there we go.
So there is no gay gene.
There is no gay. All right. Well, that's a question that makes most liberals' heads explode, by the way. Question 3. So your head did not explode, so you actually are a free-thinking human being. So question 3, this is actually a good one. Bob, you'll get to answer this one. When does an unborn child's right to life outweigh a woman's right to terminate her pregnancy? A, it's a woman's right to choose. A woman's right to choose is absolute and defined in Roe v. Wade. B, if aliens came down from outer space and invaded Earth and they started to have their way with our women and got them pregnant with their alien human hybrid babies, by the way, see the NBC miniseries V, would you want your daughter to have to carry that baby to full term or to be able to choose to have an abortion? Okay, that was a long one. C, the following is a quote from Obama. If they make a mistake, I wouldn't want them punished with a baby. D, while the courts have never determined where life begins, science has clearly shown several stages in the development of a baby that increasingly lead one to conclude that life begins at conception.
That's it.
Last one. I'm sorry. There was E. It's a baby. Okay. You started to answer. I don't know. He's suspect, Tom. So, all right.
We could have a robot over there, though, and that would be all right.
All right. Question 4. Tom, this is back to you.
Jobs that Americans won't do anymore. Go ahead.
Should I vote for Hillary or Trump? A, Hillary is the most prepared person to ever run for the presidency. She's been First Lady, U.S. Senator, and Secretary of State. Trump has done nothing compared to her. B, Hillary will let Bill run the economy, and she'll get to drive the SUV. C, Hillary is the picture of perfect health, tells the truth, would never let her office be used for personal benefit. She was named after Sir Edmund Hillary, if you didn't know that. And then finally,
go ahead.
She's the biggest Cubs fan since they look like a lock for the World Series. Or D, Trump all the way.
We'll go with a D on that, and I do appreciate. I bet you've got even a few more, but
one more. But I know we got to wrap up.
Okay, we'll have that next time. But I thought that was an enlightening quiz, and I'm sure the audience felt the same way. But I have had a marvelous time for the last nearly 2 hours. Like to come in. It's kind of fun to come in here when Mac's not here. And again, the cat's away, the mice will play, and we've had a good time. Will, I want to thank you for coming in and being our guest for this last hour. Jeb, thank you very much for dealing with that Johnny Cash music. I don't know what I'd done without you.
Always, Tom, always.
Frank the Verse, expect a miracle right in front of him there.
Expect a miracle.
And Bob, appreciate any last words from you?
No more text.
No more text. All right. Again, Tom Coates saying in, and we will hand the baton back to Mac. It won't be Tom's World Live. It'll be Mac's World Live next time you hear this show. Coming to you, and as Mac says, forgive as you shall be forgiven.